This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. Everything I'm sharing is my opinion.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Okay, guys. Whew, come on in. We have a lot of information to go through in the Spencer and Monique Tepe case. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist with additional training in statement analysis. So come on in. You can tell me where you're from, what city, what state, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. But today we're going to be discussing a potential witness who survived the attack, and that's Monique and Spencer's 4-year-old daughter, the 4-year-old. How would law enforcement even go about interviewing her? We're going to talk about the bizarre 911 call. No, not that one. This is the one that was made 11 days before Monique and Spencer were done away with inside their own home. It was a neighbor. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a statement that we're going to be going through from the Columbus police chief, speaking out on what law enforcement knows so far. So let's go ahead and get started. Come on in, grab yourself some coffee, grab some snacks, make yourself comfortable. We have a lot of stuff to go into. So we know from the house that, let me go ahead and, we know from the house that that we're talking, going back to the original 911, the checks, right? We're going to start there, and then we're going to dig into the neighbor's 911 call. That was made 11 days before. There's been a lot of confusion about that online. I'm going to play the call for you too, but I want to talk about these welfare checks that were done, because I don't know if this is bothering you, but it's been bothering me. Why were they doing welfare checks, and why did multiple people get in the car to do a welfare check and drive an hour and 20 minutes to the Tepe home from the dental office and back? Why was all of this happening so early? I mean, people were calling in. I mean, I understand he was punctual, so I understand why the boss called in. But why also did they say, did the guy say, well, he was seeming more concerned with the fact that Monique wasn't picking up the phone than Spencer, or maybe it was both combined. But let's begin with what's bothering a lot of people, and then we're going to talk about the potential witness that survived this, their 4-year-old daughter, and how they would go about interviewing her. And you'd be surprised what a 4-year-old can reveal. We're going to be talking about this bizarre 911 call that was placed by a neighbor 11 days before the attack. And we're also going to be talking about the latest statement from the Columbus police chief on what they know so far. So this live stream is packed full of new information. So come on in. So we have friends and work colleagues, and I also have photos of the house. If you have not seen the Tepe house, I have outside, but I also have inside shots. So we either have a friend or work colleague who was able to access the house, and now we've seen pictures. We're going to look at the house inside and outside together in just a second. But we either have a friend or work colleague who was able to access the inside of the house. That you will recall, and this is the inside of the Tepe home right here. You will recall that we thought maybe they had been boosted up looking in the window or something like that. But no, they were not looking in the window, because if you look at the back of the house, so let me just back it up a little bit. If you look at the back of the house, that's where the garage is. It's separate. I thought maybe they climbed up on the garage and got in that way, but nope. The house is up high. It sits up. And we're going to look at the interior shots of the house too. So this is Spencer. For those of you that don't know, this is Monique and Spencer. They do look like they were really happy together, you guys. This is the suspect. This is the image that the law enforcement has released. And we're going to listen to that 911 call together too. But let's start with the house, because the house not only sits up high on the lot, there's the staircase leading up to it, right? So we've got the staircase going up to the house. You can see the second floor is way up high. It's not close. So how did somebody access the home. There's the second floor. Now, I had speculated maybe the garage, was up against the house and they were able to get up on the garage to look in the window. But the only way they would have known where Spencer was, in my opinion, is if they had actually gone into the house. And now we know that this house does have a keypad. If you look at the front door of the house, let me just show you that. You can clearly see that there is a keypad at the front door. Let's look together. So that's how they got in. So who else had this keypad code? So that's the staircase with all of the staircase leading up to the house. And there's the front door. And you can clearly see above the front doorknob a keypad. There's a lock with a key that you would be able to use, but there's also a keypad, which may be how they got access. And I'm going to just let the pictures of the house interior play through while we go talk about everything. Okay, so what was going on between Spencer and Monique, and does this involve anybody else? We have these welfare checks. So Spencer was only around an hour late for work, but apparently this was really out of character for him. But the fact that work colleagues, I don't know if this bothers you. To me, it just kind of pops out a little bit. But we have work colleagues that drove an hour and 20 minutes to and from the house, right? Back and forth. I mean, that's a 2.5 hour round trip to do this welfare check. And then somebody was able to literally let themselves inside the house, which, I don't know. I just wonder if somebody knew, and I'm not saying it was a work colleague or if it was a friend, but I just wonder if somebody knew that the kids were alone, because I think this was done by somebody that they knew. If you agree, put a yes in the chat. If you think it's a stranger, like it was in the Brian Kohlberger, put a no in the chat. I'm just curious where you guys were at. So I think there was more, was there something else going on between Spencer and Monique that we just don't know about? And does this involve anyone else? We know Monique had this very short marriage to another guy. She was married to him for a very short period of time, right around 7 months. They got a quickie divorce, and they hired their own private judge to make this divorce happen sooner. So what was going on, and what was the rush to get divorced, and why was Monique in such a hurry to get out of this relationship? So I'm not saying that this is the person that's responsible for it, but I just think it's odd. Now, we know in the Chris Watts case, the welfare check, maybe it wasn't as unusual as we think it might be. We know Nicole Atkinson, who was friends with Shanann, she was at the house doing a welfare check on Shanann because she was adamant that Shanann would have showed up for that doctor's appointment. So was there somebody that knew something about Monique and Spencer that we just haven't heard about yet? And this is why they were so anxious to do that welfare check. I'm just wondering if there was something else in play here, a relationship or something else going on that we just don't know about. Or did somebody know that there were two kids alone in the house, and then who else had that keypad code? How many people had access to the keypad? So let's talk about the potential witness who survived this. This is the 4-year-old daughter, and then we're going to listen to and discuss the bizarre 911 call made just 11 days before the attack. We're going to play that next, but I want to do the daughter first, and then we're going to go through the 911 call together. So let me pull this up. How would you get this information out of a child, and how much can this really tell us? Well, you would be surprised. So let me add this in. Nope, not that one. Let me share my screen. There we go. All right. I got a lot going on. Let me make myself smaller so I'm not blocking you. Okay, so this is Ashley Banfield, News Nation. Shout out to her. And let me put the closed caption on. And let's go through the witness. The witness, which is going to be a 4-year-old, potentially. What did she hear? What did she see? Because you would be surprised how much information they can get out. And let's look at how this is going to happen. And then we're going to play the 911 call that was made by the neighbor just 11 days before.
Accurate forensic information from a young child is an extremely specialized skill, and one that many police officers just hand right over to the experts, like Dr. Rebecca Bailey. She's a leading family psychologist and former personal therapist of J.C. Dugard. J.C., you'll remember, was abducted by a convicted sex offender while walking to the bus stop at just 11 years old. She remained missing for more than 18 years, bearing 2 children by her rapist. Her rapist and his wife are serving life. Dr. Bailey, thank you so much for being here. Just walk me through what happens now, if you could, with these little tiny witnesses. I'm just going to assume the 1-year-old is out of the picture, but that the 4-year-old could be questioned. What actually happens?
Well, what's important that when they are questioned, and particularly you're right, the 4-year-old is with somebody who's really well trained in forensics. There are protocols that are used throughout the country that is responsible training, which include being very careful about not re-traumatizing the child, which, as we watched with that one, my heart just went into my feet. Bless that kid's heart. You want to be very careful about not suggesting things, about not doing leading questions, taking a kid into repeated interviews. We're very careful about that. Also titrating at times, the experience, the environment where you do the interview is super, super important. You don't want it done in the police station. 4-year-olds, like any other age, also can be very variable in their ability to recall accurately. And then the last thing is if it is somebody known to the child, you can see a tremendous loyalty bind at times. It's just so heartbreaking, isn't it?
So, if it was someone known to the 4-year-old, then this would be good news for the prosecution, terrible news for the 4-year-old, but she might be able to give some information as to who did this.
Well, I'll tell you something, that AJ Hutto, you didn't even see the most traumatizing moment on the stand when they asked him to identify his mom, and he looked around the courtroom and didn't, and then suddenly recognized there she was. She'd been away from him, locked up for years, and he just burst into tears. It broke my heart. I covered it live. But I do want to ask you about the suggestibility, because one of the things in AJ's case that was questioned by Amanda's defense lawyer was that this child had been put in the back of a car with other family members who hated Amanda and said all sorts of things about Amanda, and that might be the memory of little AJ. How does an expert know when you're getting the real witnessed event or just what was suggested to them?
Well, it's challenging. We absolutely know it's challenging. The basic, when a child is being interviewed in the formal manner, you want to make sure that they are able to give child-centered language, meaning that they're using words that sound like a child would use, they're concrete, they're able to stay with the same story without a whole lot of fantastical elaboration to what they're saying. So that's really one of the ways to do a veracity check. It's again challenging.
So I think that's really interesting. So it's challenging, but not impossible. So it definitely sounds like this is doable. So I want to go through the 911 call. This was placed by a neighbor. Okay. This is not the 911 call that came in, that was, from a party back in April. This was 11 days before these crimes occurred on December 30th of 2025. This was 11 days before. This is a neighbor who is calling 911 because someone was banging on her door at around 2:30 a.m. You guys, let's listen.
Okay. Is there an apartment letter number?
No.
What's the emergency?
Somebody's knocking on my door. I think they're trying to get in.
Let me boost the sound because she does sound muffled. Let me boost it maximum. Okay. Let me back it up and we'll boost it. This is from Fox News.
Okay. Is there an apartment letter number?
No.
What's the emergency?
Somebody's knocking on my door. I think they're trying to get in. They're banging on my door.
Okay. Someone's banging and knocking. Do you know who this is?
No. I see it's for
Do you have a description of them?
No, I can't see any face downstairs.
Have you told them, have you asked them what they want or if they need something?
No.
Okay, what's your name? I'm sorry, say it again.
So the bleeped outs part, this was bleeped out by Fox News, gives their address and their name, which obviously they're not going to reveal.
Yeah.
Does your phone number end in?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got it sent up for someone banging and knocking on the door. If anything escalates or changes, give us a call back and let us know. We'll get officers there as soon as we can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Bye.
So she said, I don't know if somebody just like woken up from a deep sleep or what's going on here, but definitely, the fact that somebody was banging on the door, you guys, just 11 days at around the same time. Remember, the timeline that the police have given us is from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's when they're asking for footage. And we're going to go through the latest statement from the chief of police too. But let's go through. I want to talk about Audrey Mackey. Now, she is the cousin to Spencer and Monique. She's the one that organized the GoFundMe. So the family has made a statement. Let me pull this up for you. Okay, let me share this. So the GoFundMe is for the children. Okay. I just just want to make that clear. They are fundraising because the children are now orphans. They've lost it. So this is Audrey Tepe Mackey. She is a cousin to Spencer and Monique, and she said, "Our family is devastated by the tragedy and senseless loss of Spencer and Monique Tepe. They were extraordinary people whose lives were filled with love, joy, and deep connection to others. Their presence was as big as their heart. Monique's charm and infectious smile lit up every room. She was warm with strength that inspired everyone around her. Spencer was the soul of every gathering, grand in personality, yet calm and steady." Oh, sorry. Together, they were truly remarkable inside and out. They were a solid pair with a bright future. They were the proud parents of two beautiful children, and every day they showed up with unwavering loss and devotion to their family. The abrupt loss of Spencer and Monique has changed daily life in ways that are still unfolding. This fund exists to provide stability and care for their children and the immediate family members who are supporting them during this time. The outpouring of love has meant more than words can express. Thank you for helping the children as the family together takes each day one step at a time. Now she appeared, and let me pull this up. She has made one televised appearance. Just so you know who is Audrey. Okay, so the 911 call where we had the one caller that was supposed to be from the house, we have learned that that caller was not, I repeat, was not Monique Tepe. So that was just, I don't know if the police wrote the name down wrong. We know that they responded to the wrong address when people called for the welfare check. But I do want to show you guys. This is Mackey. Okay. So let me add this to the stage. Let me share this. Okay. So this is the only television appearance that I've seen her make so far.
Tragedy.
They were, warm and welcoming and, handled each day with such enthusiasm. They were just really kind and solid. They're a great couple.
So I just wanted to show you that little bit of a clip so you could know who wrote the GoFundMe. And this is for the kids.
Aaron, you mentioned a person of interest. Is there any more info?
Well, police say they believe the murders took place on December 30th between 2 and 5 a.m. in the morning. This person of interest that you see there in the surveillance footage was spotted in the area at the time. Authorities.
Now, originally, I was pretty sure that the person of interest was going to be, I thought maybe the person of interest was going to be a male. But the more I'm like thinking about it, and I'm just curious to get your opinion on this, I think this person might have been a female or a male. I think it could be either one. And the reason I think this is that we have Spencer, who seems to be the target. By most experts agree that they think that Spencer was the target. He was fired upon multiple times, sustained multiple shots to him, and Monique, in contrast, only had one. So either A, he was fighting back, or B, he was the target. And Monique was just happened to be a witness and in the way, kind of like what we saw in the Brian Kohlberger case, right? Where I think Ethan was not probably the intended target, but he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So let's talk about the police chief, because she's speaking out and people are wondering, why was everybody calling on 911? Why not just call the police on a direct line? Why were they dialing 911 for this welfare check? Did they know that there was something wrong? Had there been a stalker, or maybe some reports of somebody banging on Monique and Spencer's door? And maybe they didn't call the police, but maybe they told coworkers about it. Or was this somebody that knew that these kids weren't there? Because the alarm that was raised after Spencer failed to turn up for work that week, in a move that was cited as, quote, very out of character for him, concerned colleagues turned up at the house and they heard the children crying. They called the police. And this was after the police had already responded for this welfare check. But as we're going to find out, it turns out that they went to the wrong address, you guys. So that's why we had to have the second call. So let's listen to the police.
Saying that we think that every single case that we have is high profile. We care about every single case that we have, which is why we don't just stop when the year ends, we don't stop investigating it, which is why we have 30 additional cases from previous years that are solved. Our detectives work diligently to close every single case to bring justice to every single family, which is why we have 100 homicides solved last year. In this case in particular, what we do know is that obviously we received a call for a well-being check related to the two victims involved in this case. There was an officer that was dispatched to go to that well-being check. Unfortunately, he did respond to the wrong location initially. He went to the wrong location, and in him believing that he was at the right location, he did everything that he was supposed to do. Knocked on the doors, checked the backyard, did all those things, but it was not the right location.
So to be clear, the officer went to 1111 instead of 1117, and that was how the officer ended up at the wrong house for the welfare check, which is, maybe, thank goodness that people did go over there, because if they hadn't, maybe the kids would have been in that house for a longer period of time because the police thought everything was okay. And mistakes do happen. There's no perfect case. There's no perfect witnesses. There's no perfect victims. And police, are just doing their best too. They're not going to be perfect.
Approximately about maybe 40 minutes later, we had received another call because the coworkers of one of the victims stated that they had not reported to work and they were really concerned. So they went to the house, and that's when subsequently the bodies were found of the two victims as it relates to this case. We are working very diligently to try to solve this case. We know that people are concerned, and we know that people have a lot of questions. What we're asking for is patience as it relates to this investigation. We want to make sure that we don't compromise the integrity of this investigation. So when we finally identify a suspect and it goes to trial or it goes to, we want to make sure that there's nothing that could cause this case to be dismissed or cause this case to be kicked. So we're looking at every single tip or every single information that comes in. We leave no stone unturned. We're investigating it. But
could I just ask everybody that's here to please give this a thumbs up and help me with the algorithm? We had some bad luck on the last live stream we did. YouTube was having some technical difficulties, and so the live stream was just processing for 2 days straight, that's not normal, which means that nobody was seeing it. Normally they process it, and usually it's up and available right away. Sometimes it's an hour later, but what's happened on this one is they're looking at that live stream, the analytics, and they're only going to show it to the people that were at the last live stream. And unfortunately, that one's not indicative of how the channel normally does. So I'm going to need extra help on this, which means if you're watching this, please give this a thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you're watching on replay, please consider hyping the video. I do need your help to get this video out. I can't do it without you.
there's only so much that we can share at this point. We released a video of the person of interest that we're looking for, the person that we know that was in the area at that time. We're asking the community, we're asking the public, if you have any information, if you think you know anything about this person, please contact us. Please call us. You can email us. You can call us. You can call Crime Stoppers. Even if you don't think it's something that's relevant in that moment, it may have been something you saw last week. It may have been something that you saw the day before. It could be relevant to this case. Please.
Now, I want to get your opinion on something. In the Brian Koberger case, the Moscow Police Department, which is a much smaller town, this is, Columbus is, it's a bigger area. So the Moscow Police Department hadn't solved the crime like what happened with the Brian Koberger case for years. It had been over 8 years. So they called in the Idaho State Police and the FBI right away to get all hands on deck on this. Now, this law enforcement didn't do that. Do you think that's a mistake, or is it because this is a bigger city, bigger police department, they're more used to handling crimes like this, and they don't need the extra help? Let me know if you think that they should have reached out to the state police or should have reached out to FBI or both. Put an A in the chat if you think that this is a bigger police department than the Moscow Police Department and they've got this. They don't need outside help. Put a B in the chat if you kind of wish that they had called in for outside help.
Please reach out. Please let us know. So we are asking for tips. We have received numerous tips as it relates to this case, but we do not have at this moment a suspect that we have identified.
Do you believe that person who was in the video is the suspect or just someone who was there at the time when the murders happened?
Evidence is going to give us that information as we continue to dig, as we continue to gather as much as we can. Right now, we know that they were there. So right now, what we want is for people to be able to give us more information so that we can then collect that evidence and make a determination on whether that's the case.
Now, there's a crime camera just across the street from the Tepe's residence. Did that crime camera catch anything that's been useful to the department?
We're still reviewing a lot of video. We're still looking at a lot of evidence. Again, the information that we're releasing, we want to be as transparent as possible and release that. But there are some things we're just not going to be able to share at this time related to the investigation.
And I believe her when she says she has a lot of footage to go through. They have to go through between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and maybe beyond that, right? Maybe looking to see if anybody parked a car. Now the Tepes have a doorbell cam, but I don't think this perpetrator necessarily would have let themselves in the front door. Or if they did, they kept that hoodie pulled down. And we saw that if that is the perpetrator. But they also have probably traffic cam. And we know from the baby Emmanuel Harrow case when we had that fake hoax kidnapping that the parents tried to trick everybody with. We know that it took days for them to go through all of the footage. They had, they knew the parents were lying, but it took time to prove it. So I think that this is going to be the same thing where it's just a lot of man hours to go through all of this footage. But we got all B's on that. Let me see. I got a couple more B's. So sounds like you guys are pretty well in agreement that you think that it would have been good to call in for some outside help.
But what I can tell you is that we are looking at so much video information. There's so much content that we're still combing through. So we don't have all the answers. And so our investigators are diligently working. They're still gathering information. And as soon as we're able to, we're going to provide another update.
Is there a threat to the community at this time, though? Community at large?
I'll add that any homicide investigation is a delicate balance between community safety and investigative integrity. When there's a community safety issue, that's information that we get out as soon as possible. Our homicide teams have been canvassing the area.
Okay, I'm going to back up and play that again, but think about this. They're saying that they don't think that there's like a madman on the loose, even though we have that 911 call from somebody banging on the neighbor's door 11 days before. They're not sounding the alarm. So do you guys think they have somebody in mind for this, that they have a suspect? Let's listen to what he says again, because I think this is very, very interesting. If you guys think that they already have a suspect, put a yes in the chat. If you think that they don't have a suspect, put a no in the chat. But I'm just wondering if they have a suspect, and this is why otherwise wouldn't they be sounding the alarm?
Any homicide investigation is a delicate balance between community safety and investigative integrity. When there's a community safety issue, that's information that we get out as soon as possible.
Okay, so if it's a community safety issue, that's something we get out as soon as possible. So do you think that the police know who did this? Yes or no? Let me see where you guys are at on this.
Our homicide teams have been canvassing the area every single day since this tragedy occurred, and they're making a lot of relationships in the Weinland Park area. The community members have stepped up and they have provided a lot of information. For every second of video, that's every second of video that a detective has to watch. And so when we have tens of thousands of hours of video, detectives watch every bit of that. And that's obviously not an instantaneous lead. Additionally, the chief mentioned a number of tips that have come in since we released that video. And our detectives, we have a great triage system that the tips are sent to detectives. Detectives follow up on all of those tips. Some of them pan out to some additional information and follow up. Some of them are just not good tips, but we follow up on every one. Again, that speaks to the partnership with the community. That speaks to the work.
So the fact that they're not sounding the alarm, that they think that somebody, that the community's in danger, to me makes me think that they do have a suspect in mind, that they may know who is in that video, that somebody saw that video of that person walking, if it is that person, and identified them, but they have to now prove it. What do you guys think? Are you watching closely?
So what I'm describing, the canvassing, the review of video, that happens on every single homicide that our detectives investigate. If there's anything good out of this, it's that people are paying attention to the professionalism of our detectives and the significant work that they do.
Do you know how many tips that you guys have gotten?
Several tips, a lot of tips in a lot of different ways. So we've gotten them emailed, social media, telephone calls, texts, in person. We've gotten a lot of tips.
So I think they do probably have a suspect. Now they have to prove that that's the person that did it. Knowing who you believe did it and proving it are not the same thing, right? I mean, look how long it's taken in the D4VD Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. And for Brian Kohlberger, it took them 6 weeks. They identified him as a suspect in early December. I think it was December the 19th, but they didn't arrest him until the 30th because they couldn't prove it. They identified him as a suspect, but they needed to prove it.
After the protest tonight, how do you plan to handle that as protest at 6 p.m.?
We're going to do it the same way that we handle every protest. We have our dialogue team that has been phenomenal in being able to facilitate and work with these groups. We want to make sure that people are able to protest in a peaceful manner and that their First Amendment rights are not violated.
Okay, they're talking about something else now, so we're going to move on from this. But I do think that I just wanted to play that because I do think that it's very, very telling that they think, and I am playing through pictures of the house. This is the memorial. This is their obituary went up today. I do have that in here too. So I have some new pictures of them too, but I also got pictures of all the inside of the house. And then we're going to look at a panoramic view of the Tepe home in just a few minutes. But let's go through a couple of more things that I think are really, really telling about this. So Monique was married. We talked about Dr. Michael McGee. Now, a lot of people have been conflating. I guess Michael McGee is a pretty common name. There is no DV charges against him. There is no RO. There's no restraining O. I know it said that in the divorce, but how they put that in the paperwork is just standard for divorce cases. I think people saw that in the paperwork for the divorce and immediately thought the worst. But in Ohio, apparently this is pretty standard. They just want it prevents both parties from hiding assets. It prevents parties from selling property without getting the consent of the other party, from just annoying and harassing or arguing with each other, and also for selling property behind somebody else's back. So it just keeps everybody doing the right thing because there is this RO in place. But Michael McGee has not and never had any DV charges, and Monique did not have any type of RO against Dr. McGee. This was just a standard RO that is in place for many divorces in Ohio. So the other thing that we've seen online is people accidentally conflating Michael McGee with another Michael McGee that had criminal charges. Dr. Michael McGee does not have any criminal charges or convictions in this case. I just want to urge caution with him, but I just do think that it is interesting. So we can officially now also say that Monique Tepe was not the person that made that 911 call in April of 2025. The Columbus police chief, Elaine Bryant, who we just showed there, told members of the media on January the 8th, so yesterday, that, and Assistant Chief Greg Bodker added that officials do not believe any calls, no 911 calls from the home of Spencer and Monique Tepe asking for police to respond. So the 911 call that we have are the welfare check 911 calls. And then we have the neighbor 911 call where someone was banging at her door at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Sounds like they woke her out of a sound sleep. And, was somebody at the wrong door, or is this just a coincidence? What do you guys think? Michael McGee is the first husband of Monique. Monique was married to someone else for a very short time, around 7 months. And so people have been into a doctor too. Spencer was a dentist, but she was married to a doctor before this. So I just want to say that there's been no restraining order. He doesn't have any kind of charges against him. There was no DV, none of that. So I just, want to put that out there because I think we just need to be, I'm urging caution. I think we just need to be careful. And Rosa's right. Not all tips are valid. That they have to go through every tip. Yeah. Lockie says, I feel like they have any idea. You do feel like they have an idea? Because I think they do too. Thank you. And Jazz. And Angela says, why? Yes, law enforcement went to the wrong house. That's why there are 4 different calls, because law enforcement did not show up for a while. So that explains the number of calls. That explains the number of calls in this case. I do want to say thank you to Njaz. Wow, thank you, Njaz, for gifting a Reporter Room channel membership. If you got that, please make sure you say thank you to Njaz. That is really kind of you. Thank you so much. And I also want to say, oh, wow. If you guys got one of these, please make sure you say thank you to Njaz. Thank you, Njaz, for gifting 5 Reporter Room memberships, you guys. Wow. Thank you so much. That is so kind of you. All right. So let's go through a couple more comments. So Linda says, was Monique a doctor too? No, she worked for a Nationwide, which is an insurer. And she also had, I think she worked in childhood education, like preschool. And I think she had some degrees or certification related to that, but she was not a doctor or a dentist. And my understanding is that during her message with Dr. Spencer Tepe, that she was at home they had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So I would imagine that most couples that can afford to have one of the parents stay home do that. Lockie says, was that right before her current marriage? I don't think it was right before. No, this was back in 2017. So I don't know why there was this quickie divorce. We don't know what happened there. And it could just be that they just realized they were not compatible at all. It could be that Dr. McGee wanted to move on with somebody else. It could be that Monique wanted to move on with somebody else, but didn't end up marrying that person. Or maybe she had met Dr. Spencer and, just didn't marry him for a while. Let me know what you think. Are you watching closely? But this is interior photographs of the house. They're down now, but I grabbed screenshots of them. Hold on one second. You can see it's a beautiful house. This was prior to them moving in, but I wanted to pay careful attention to the doors. There, to me, it does look like it would be very easy. And I showed you the front door lock that had a key code. Now, whoever went out to the house and broke in, they did also have a doorbell camera. So if that person went in through the front door, the doorbell camera would have picked them up, the Tepe home, unless they took the battery out of it. But I think that's really interesting. We don't know which door, but I want to show you guys what the doors are. So this is the kitchen. This is just to show you what the points of entry. Was no sign of a big break-in. So in my opinion, this was somebody that had the key code to the house or got the key code. This is the bedroom upstairs. The house is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. And let me just show you the other door. So they really were a beautiful couple. So I just want to say, this is Spencer. He volunteered for Big Brother, Big Sister. Some people think that that could be related. This is such a cute picture of them. They just look so cute and so happy together. This is the person of interest, they're calling it. Do you think this is a man or a woman? Let's do a poll. If you think this is a man, put man in the chat. If you think it's a woman, put woman in the chat. If you don't know, just put don't know in the chat. I want to see what you guys think about this. But let's look at the door, because you can see that there is a lock on the front door. This is the police responding, the Columbus Police Department. Now, this is a bigger police department than the Moscow Police. But if you look at this picture, you can see that there is a keypad on that front door. And there's also, if you look to the right of it, you can also see the doorbell camera, just like we had in the Shanann Watts case. So did that capture anyone coming up to the front, or did they go around to the back? And we don't know yet if there was a keypad on the back door too, but I would imagine that there probably was, because the garage, as I'm going to show you, was located behind the house. We're going to do an overhead panoramic view of the house in just a second. But this is the back door, and the garage is where the realtor is standing to take this picture. So this is why the friend who said they saw Spencer lying on the floor, there's no way that he was not inside the house when he saw that. So whoever went in had the key code. So this tells me at least one other person had the key code to this house. Let's look at the garage. There's a garage, and you can see it's, all the way at the back end of the house. It has its own door with a lock. I do not see a keypad on the garage door. But it's not separate. So whoever was in the house and saw Spencer, and called 911 during that call, was not able to be boosted up to look in the windows. I thought maybe the garage was attached to the house and they had gotten boosted up and were able to look in the second floor windows, but no, the second floor windows, and this is their obituary that came out today. This second floor windows are way up high, you guys. There's no way that somebody just boosted somebody else up. So they either got into the house or they had a ladder, which I don't imagine that somebody would bring a ladder with them. I guess they could have borrowed one from the neighbor. But I'm curious what you guys think about the suspect. Let's see what you guys say on that, because I see comments coming in now. Because the kids were left unharmed, which is why some people think, gosh, maybe this was a woman. Anjas thinks it was a woman. Thanks for modding today, Anjas. Deborah says man. Tammy says man. Thanks for modding today, Tammy. Rosa says man. Scorpio Moon says man. Jill says man. Lockie says man. Rosa said the area that they lived in seemed like it would have had a camera in the back. Yeah, we will look at that together. Michelle says a man. Linda's not sure. Lucky said, I'm surprised they didn't. So let's look at the back of, let's look at the other pictures of the house. So let's look at the back of the house and look at the inside. That's why I wanted to show you guys key photographs of the house. Now this is before they purchased. This is when the house was for sale by the builder of the home. Because I think the Spencers were the original owners. So this is the front of the house, and if you look at the front door, whether you can see the steps leading up to it, you can see it looks like a little Juliet balcony off the front. It's a really pretty house. It's about 2,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, and you can clearly see that there is a keypad above the lock on the front door, and right next to it, just above the railing on the right, you can see on the railing on the right, you can see that there is a doorbell camera. So did this capture the person going in or out of the house? And we know there's a doorbell camera on the neighbor across the way. And we also know that there was a neighborhood camera that was also mounted that could have picked up somebody. And it did pick up someone in this back alley. Now, the person that they caught on camera going through, the person that they're calling a person of interest, was going through the back alley of the house. They were not out in front of the house. They were at the back alley of the house. If you're just joining me, please help me out. When I did the last live stream on this case, the live stream got stuck in processing. They were having technical issues for 2 days. So the algorithm thinks that people didn't watch it because they weren't interested. If you guys, please give this a thumbs up. Please help me out, subscribe, and let the algorithm know that I'm doing a good job. I am reporting on this case responsibly. So that camera would have been behind the garage. That person of interest was walking behind the garage in the alley behind the house. So not in the front, but in the back of the house. Now, this is the front door, and this is more evidence that there was a keypad. If you look at the front door, you can clearly see the stairs, the railing to the stairs through the glass, and you can see that there is a keypad with a deadbolt lock, both together. So did somebody come up to the front door and just hold the hood over their face and go in through the keypad? And so I guess my question is, did everybody have the same keypad code? Because for those of you that have keypad locks, you know that you can give different people different codes so that you can see who is letting themselves into your house and who wasn't, right? So did somebody use a code? We know whoever did the welfare check that saw Spencer had to have let themselves into the house using that keypad. So we know at least one other person had the code to this house. Who else had a code? And was this a female? So this is the inside of the house. You can see it's a very open floor plan. You can see the front door there is just next to the refrigerator. And then I'm going to show you the back doors. So this is prior to the Spencer and Monique moving in. These are this is the Juliet balcony that I showed you guys a few minutes ago that face out to the front of the house. This is the Juliet balcony. And again, you can see there's a deadbolt lock, but no keypad, no key code on that door. So the front door had that, which makes sense because this one didn't have stairs, but it does face the front. This is the kitchen. It does have a window. I just tried to bring in anything that could be a potential access point regarding this. You can see the stairs going up to the upstairs. It's a very pretty house, very long and narrow. And this is the bedroom. Again, this faces out to the front of the house. So I'm assuming this is probably one of the kids' bedrooms. But you can see how high up it is. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because you can clearly see that there was nobody going to get up onto that second floor and just peek in the windows. It's way too high. So whoever saw Spencer lying on the floor that made that 911 call was inside the house. So was this a family member or a trusted friend that had access to the house? What do you guys think? But you have the code to the door. It's a pain. Yeah. It's very odd that he would say second floor window. Yeah, you know what? That is a good point. Let me see if I can grab that 911 call really quick. Hold on. Let me grab that. Let's see if I have that handy. Let's see. Yep, I do. Nope, that's the 911 call from the neighbor. Let me see if I have the other one. If I do, I'll play it. I would like to listen to that again. Nope, that's the Fox News one. Okay, so that's not. Let me pull it up this way, as we do have it. Let me see. I'm just pulling it up for you guys. Well, let's listen to that 911 call because that's a really good question. What did he say?
Feel right because he didn't show up for work. It would be roughly another half hour until a 911 caller then discovers what he says is Spencer Tepe's body in the home of the couple on December 30th. More than a week into trying to find the person who killed Spencer and Monique in their home while their kids were there on December 30th, a lot of it is still a mystery. But the Columbus police chief did make some public comments, and from what we heard, she didn't directly say whether the public is still at risk. Now, what might that tell us about where police are in this investigation?
Okay, so what I think this body cam footage is the officer responding to the wrong house.
We're going to talk about that, and we'll talk about what the chief reportedly said about the voice you hear in this call.
Hello?
Hi, this is 911. We just got a hang-up call. Is everything okay?
Okay, we already know this has been debunked, so let me just fast forward over this.
From the Tepe's address. Now, it is a woman who said that she had a disagreement with, quote, her man.
We already know this has been debunked, so we don't.
If you're on that call, that is not Monique Tepe's voice. But the chief is also telling local media outlets a little bit more context as to where that call may have been coming from. And whether this call could be important to the investigation. Now, the biggest piece of information that we do have at this point when it comes to this investigation and what's been given out to the public by police, it's this video. It's the person of interest walking down an alley behind Spencer and Monique's home in the early hours of December.
So could that be a woman? I thought it was a man, and I was pretty sure it was a man, but now I'm wondering, was I wrong? Is this a woman? So come on in and tell me where you're from.
30th. Police are continuing to call out to the public to see if anyone has more video from a time frame of between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning on December 30th. That is believed to be the time that police think that Spencer and Monique were killed. Now, you can see in the video that they have put out, even though it's grainy, there could be some clues to take away because you see that this person, it appears to be a male. They're wearing gray pants, black shoes, a black coat, and they're walking down this alley.
Look at the leg, the right leg of the perpetrator, person of interest.
The video that they have put out, even though it's grainy, there could be some clues to take away because you see that this person, it appears to be a male. They're wearing gray pants, black shoes.
It looks like there's a little bit of a limp or a little bit of an odd gait there. Look at it one more time.
December 30th, that is believed to be.
See the little bit of a limp on the right leg? Is there does somebody have a bad hip
when
or
it comes to this
knee?
investigation and what's been given out to the public by police? It's this video. It's the person of interest walking down an alley behind Spencer and Monique's home in the early hours of December 30th. Police are continuing.
Okay, watch right here. Let me see if I can slow this down a little bit. Look at the gait on this. To me, this looks like almost a little bit of a limp on the right side.
To call out to the public to see if anyone.
What do you guys think? Let me put it back to normal now. Oop, I don't want to turn the sleep timer on. All right, let's continue on. I think
one has more video from a time frame of between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning on December 30th. That is believed to be the time that police think that Spencer and Monique were killed. Now, you can see in the video that they have put out, even though it's grainy, there could be some clues to take away because you see that this person, it appears to be a male. They're wearing gray pants, black shoes, a black coat, and they're walking down this alley in the middle of the night. This is a Tuesday morning.
The right leg, it just seems like there's a difference in the gait between the left leg and the right leg. And I'm wondering if police were able to, or somebody was able to say who this was. because I think that even though they have the hood pulled down, and also if this wasn't somebody that's suspicious, wouldn't they have come forward and said it was me and just rolled themselves out?
Happened, temperatures were in the 20s. This was the day before New Year's Eve. Now, you can see that this person of interest, they're not looking at the camera, and maybe that's on purpose. This alleyway is one that you can drive down. It gives access to the detached garages behind the townhomes where Spencer and Monique lived. And this is a drone shot from the Tepe's wedding video. It was shot by Spencer's brother-in-law, and you can see the back alley and these fairly new-looking townhomes.
Okay, so this is the back alley right here. And this is the Tepe house right here. This is their backyard. This is, I believe this is the garage. And then this is where they picked up this person walking, was back in here between the garages. And then they have the garages for the houses behind them.
All in a row. And again, the Tepes lived in one of those homes. Now, the person of interest, they keep their head down. They don't look up. It's unclear if they know that there are cameras in the back of these homes or maybe on garages as they walk down the street. You do see that in that person of interest video. It's a Nest camera. So this isn't like an official police camera that's out there, but the type of thing that somebody puts on the back of their home if they're maybe concerned about someone trying to break into their garage or someone going through their trash. Now, this person of interest also, they have some mannerisms that you hope that someone watching this video would notice. It looks like they might be pigeon-toed. Police are emphasizing that, again, this is a...
That's true. It could just be somebody with one foot, the right foot that turns in. There is a difference in the
police camera that's out there, but the type of thing that somebody puts on the back of their home if they're maybe concerned about someone trying to break into their garage or someone going through their trash. Now, this person of interest also, they have some mannerisms that you hope that someone watching this video would notice. It looks like they might be pigeon-toed. Police are emphasizing that, again, this is a person of interest. They don't know if this is the killer, if this is the person that they're looking for. The police chief did tell local media that this is really just a person who is in the area at the time where they are really focusing their investigation. This person may just be a person walking down the street after maybe spending time at a bar that closed late on a week where a lot of people were off work because of the holidays. We don't know, but you do consider the circumstances. This is suspicious. And also, we haven't heard if anyone has seen this video. Maybe they recognize that it is them walking down the alley. Maybe they were heading home from a bar or something like that. And yet, days after this video, which is being plastered on the news and on the internet, no one's come forward saying, hey, that was me. It's a big misunderstanding. I'm not the person you're looking for. So
yeah, what if this was you? Wouldn't you come in and rule yourself out? Wouldn't you want to rule yourself out? It's weird, right? Big feet. So you think it's a male? I don't think that's the guy. You think it's somebody else? And just says, wow, pigeon toed. And Lynn says, imagine if that was you on your way home. Yeah, well, that's why you come in and rule yourself out. Be like, it wasn't me. I was on my way home from the bar. It looks icy. It could be just they were slipping a little bit too. Great point.
Still at this point, that is the person of interest that police really want to talk to in this investigation. Now, I do want to talk about a couple new pieces of information that we did learn from these local news interviews that the chief of police in Columbus gave to media outlets in Ohio. Let's get you caught up, though, on where the investigation is, at least at this point. So up until the day that they were killed, Spencer and Monique Tepe, this is a couple that appeared to be living the lives that a lot of people dream of having. They're a young couple, young family. They're in a great home, a couple that was surrounded by people who love them. Their family has said that the Tepes, they loved having people over to their house. They were the kind of people who just loved bringing people together. This is their wedding video. It was shot in 2021 on what appears to be the steps of the home where they were found dead.
They had their wedding at their own home, you guys. It was at the house. It was at this house where I just showed you the interior shots. If you're just joining me, back up the chat and look at the interior pictures of the home and then come back up to where we are. You do want to look at those.
Townhome in Ohio. Now, the couple had 2 kids. and those kids ages 4 and 1 years old. Of course, in this story, there is no real good news because 2 people lost their lives. These 2 children lost their parents, but the children were unharmed when their parents were killed. The couple also had a dog. It's a golden doodle, and that dog was unharmed as well. And the children and the animal, they are now with Tepe family members as police continue this investigation. Now,
So to me, that would be another reason why this was targeted, because if it was just somebody coming in there to just do away with people in general, like just cause mayhem, why would they leave the kids and the dog unharmed? And why would Monique have only sustained 1 wound? Watching my words here, whereas Spencer, it was multiple. And we know they found 3 9mm shell casings. Let's continue on.
Spencer had a great job. It was a job that he appears he really loved as well. He was a dentist and he was working at an office in Athens, Ohio. And man, does it seem like he had a heck of a commute to the office, because that's roughly 75 miles from Columbus. His bio at his dental office says that he graduated from Ohio State in 2017. He had a doctor of dental surgery degree. He loved work, but outside of work, he loved the Ohio State Buckeyes. He loved the Cincinnati Bengals. That's where he grew up. And he also loved playing golf, traveling, and spending time with his family. Now, Spencer was married to Monique Tepe. There's an obituary that just went live. It's a joint obituary honoring both of them. And it reads that Monique grew up in Worthington, Ohio. That's a suburb north of Columbus. She grew up playing soccer. She was a runner. And like her husband, she was a graduate of Ohio State. And that's where she earned her master's in early childhood education. And while she was in school.
Okay, so that was a question you guys want to know. What education did she have? Well, we know she had a master's degree in early childhood education. So that's been answered. I don't think she was working, because of course they had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm sure that Spencer was making enough money where she could afford to stay home and take care of her kids. Why would you put your kids in daycare if you didn't have to?
She worked at a daycare, and the obit reads that she was now a stay-at-home mom who was known for her bright smile, infectious laugh, caring heart, and bubbly personality. The obituary says that Spencer and Monique, they were the life of the party. The couple met online, then they get married in December 2020. You know, it is just, as we've been covering this story, just so hard to comprehend how this could happen, because this was a couple. It just keeps sticking out to me just how loved this couple was for their generosity. They had this growing family, and they lose their
And yeah, Spencer volunteered for Big Brother, Big Sister, you guys.
lives like this. And you can also tell that so many people loved them just by the amount of 911 calls that were made out of concern when Spencer did not show up for work.
Columbus Police, Tech 107.
I guess so.
Okay, so we're going to get to hear the 911 call. So this is why that showed up when I did the search. All right, so here we go. Buckle up, you guys.
I would like to ask for a wellness check on an individual at their home.
So if you've been following this story with us, you know that these 911 calls that were made on December 30th, they started around 9 o'clock in the morning. And this is when Spencer didn't show up for work. The Columbus police chief did give an important piece of information, though, related to the response to these 911 calls. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment.
This individual, Spencer, works with me, and he did not show up to work this morning, and we cannot get a hold of him or his family.
So that's Spencer's boss. That's my understanding. It was his boss who was on vacation in Florida.
He didn't show up to work?
Correct.
Okay. Does he have medical problems or?
No, and he's been reliable, and we cannot get in touch with him, his wife, his family, anybody that lives in that house.
So I think that, probably what the operator was wondering is does he have medical problems? Like, do we need to do a welfare check because he has a specific medical problem? She's like kind of skeptical because they don't normally just perform a welfare check. Like Shanann was pregnant, so they went to go do a welfare check. But for Spencer, that's why she was trying to see, does he have a medical problem? Like, is he diabetic? Or, is he in a diabetic coma somewhere or something like that? Like, why are we asking for this welfare check? People have thought she should have handled this better. I don't know. I think she just was trying to figure out why this boss was calling her from a Florida phone number. Remember, she has caller ID. Or maybe he was calling from a cell phone. I don't know. But, why is he calling me about a welfare check just because somebody didn't show up for work, right?
Okay. So
There's
you're
2
in
kids in the
Florida.
home. I'm in Florida. I own the business. I was informed by my employees that he was not at work, and he runs the office.
So the first call that came in was from Spencer's boss. He told the dispatcher that he was on vacation in Florida, and he started getting calls from Spencer's coworkers because Dr. Tepe didn't show up.
Have you guys received anything else, like calls about him or like a car accident or anything like that?
No, sometimes people just don't show up to work. I mean, maybe he's sick. I don't know.
Now, as much as the dispatcher says, hey, it's common for people not to show up, maybe they overslept, maybe they're sick, Spencer's boss is just so adamant and concerned on this call that Spencer is just not the type of person who is a no-show at work and doesn't tell anyone.
I just know that he is the most, like, he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. Like, we're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
And I'm wondering why he thought it was more concerning that they couldn't get in touch with Monique, but maybe she always answers too. What do you guys think? Are you watching closely?
20 minutes later at 9:22, an officer arrived on scene, but no one answered at the couple's home. Now, this is the part of the story where we just got some major context that we're about to talk about. Concerned friends of the Tepes then go to the couple's house, and they say that they heard the children of the Tepes inside the home. So this is around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, what's the emergency there? Police or medical?
Maybe both, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of
Looks like
doing the
we've already
wellness.
had a call out there. They knocked on the front door and back door multiple times, and there was no answer.
But they were at the wrong house.
Yeah, no answer. I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell, but we can't get in. At this point, I don't know if I need to break the door in or just get in the house or what. So.
Okay, were you out there when the police was out there?
I wasn't. I just got here about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll send them back out to you.
Then you get another call from Spencer's work.
Our boss did not report to work. We haven't been able to get a hold of him for 3 hours. We are on site and we can hear.
Okay, I
kids
just
inside.
talked to somebody there.
So you can hear the 911 operator getting concerned, like, from her point of view, somebody just didn't show up to work. It's the holidays. Maybe somebody just didn't want to go to work. But from the coworkers' point of view, they're at the house. So they drove an hour and 20 minutes to go to the house. Because remember, this office is like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half away from where the Tepes lived.
Okay, I'm just making sure somebody called.
5 minutes later, there is another phone call. And this is the phone call where a friend says that they see Spencer Tepe's body.
Okay, so this friend either had a key to the house or had the keypad code, the access code to get in, to let themselves into the house, because there's no way he was boosted up to see. We know Spencer and Monique were found on the second floor in separate bedrooms. There's no way he could have boosted up. I showed you guys pictures of the house. Boosted himself up to look in the windows of the second floor.
We've got several calls on that. What's changed since the last person I talked to?
There's a body. There's a body.
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get you on the line with the medic, okay? Stay on the line.
You can hear the babies crying in the background a little bit. Did you hear that? Let me back it up. Listen carefully. You can hear the child crying.
There's a body. There's a body.
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get you on the line with the medic, okay? Stay on the line.
Hear the baby?
Now, as the caller waits, you can hear what sounds like small children in the background. The Tepes kids, again, these kids were unharmed.
There's a body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here and he appears dead.
So they hadn't found Monique, and this is because Monique was in a different room.
There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Okay, so you can tell he's obviously not breathing or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it like kind of like Puddle, like, you know, does he look like?
It definitely is puddled. I can't look.
Okay. All right. Understand. Okay. And then when was the last time somebody spoke to him?
Like yesterday, I suppose.
Yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
How old is he?
37.
37. Okay.
They are both so young. It's just so sad. So you could hear the babies in the background. So the people that were at the door weren't making it up when they said they could hear the kids. But also in the pictures that I showed you of the house, you can clearly see that the house is up high enough that on the second floor. That's why I wanted to show you that interior shot of that bedroom. There's no way he was like boosted up looking through the window. So whoever this was that called on this call did get into the house and also seemed to know that it was Spencer's bedroom, and also didn't seem to know that Monique was also passed away, but in a different room yet.
Like a drug user or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Just that's a really young age.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. We're on our way.
Now, that concerned friend saw Spencer's body inside the home.
Caller saying they can hear kids inside. Thought he heard one of them yelling. Now we're getting another call saying there's a body inside. Esther receiving copy.
Who's saying there's a body inside?
When police went inside the home, they did find Spencer dead, as well as his wife. WSYX TV says that Dr. Tepe was shot multiple times and Monique had at least one gunshot wound to the chest. Police have not said that they have a murder weapon. They do not believe that this is a murder-suicide. Police reportedly recovered a couple 9mm shell casings from the scene. Of course, that is key evidence. That could tell us a lot about the killer, not only as that evidence, but you also have to think if this was someone who knew how police would investigate this crime and how crime scene investigation works, why would they leave those shell casings behind? But I want to talk about what the police chief of Columbus said about that initial response to those 911 calls, because there's some important context here. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant, it appears, gave one-on-one interviews to local media outlets in Ohio yesterday. We here at Law and Crime, we have reached out to the chief to see if she would like to join us on our show as well. And she said in her interview, this is from 10 TV in Columbus, that they haven't identified a suspect at this point. And as far as the 911 calls, now when I heard that for the first time, where this dispatcher said an officer responded to the Tepe's home when it was just someone calling saying they were concerned because Dr. Tepe didn't show up, I found it a bit confusing as to how the officer didn't find anything, and yet the friend who calls and showed up a short time later ends up getting into the home and finding Spencer's body. But they talk about hearing the Tepe's children inside the house. And my question was, why didn't the officer hear any of that?
Am I home? There we go.
They went to the wrong house, you guys.
Now, the chief of police told local media in Columbus that this police officer went to the wrong address, and that is the body cam video that we at Law and Crime obtained on Friday. And in this video, you can hear the officer whistling. He walks up to the door, he knocks on the door of this home, and nobody answers. He checks out the property, and then he leaves. Now, the Columbus Dispatch is reporting that the house that he went to is on Summit Street, and that street runs parallel to the street where Spencer and Monique Tepe lived. Again, it would be about a half hour after this that the 911 caller would say that he found Spencer Tepe's body, and then police responded after that, and then certainly this story went to a completely different level. The chief also told 10 TV that the 911 caller, the one that you hear, where he says he saw Spencer's body, he actually went inside the home and saw the body. So
okay, that's what we were surmising here. That he had to go inside because there's no way he boosted up to look in the windows, and I'll show you why in just a second.
That means that this person had access to the Tepe's home. Now, the bodies of the Tepes were also reportedly found in a second floor bedroom. Now, to this point, it is still unclear what the motive is for these murders. The chief said that police are still trying to track down surveillance video from people who maybe have it on their homes or maybe a business nearby, anything that could end up being a clue to crack this case. But they do say that the public has stepped up and has provided a lot of video, and detectives are combing through every single minute of that. Now, there is a police camera as well that is positioned near the Tepe's home. The chief was asked about that and whether that camera caught anything related to the case. The chief would not answer that question directly, just saying they're continuing to pour through countless tips and evidence and videos as they come in from the public. Now, the chief.
So here's my opinion. I think that they do know who this is. I think somebody would have identified the person behind the house, unless this is like another Brian Koberger, which it could be. But I think that if this was somebody known to the community, they already know who this is. And the fact that nobody came forward from that back alley walk when there's been all this publicity on this case, both local, statewide, and national, I think is unusual. What do you think? Are you watching closely?
We've also addressed that 911 call that was made months earlier in her interview with the Columbus Dispatch, the newspaper. Now, this was the call. It ends up going viral. Fox News Digital puts it out, where it's this girl who is crying, and she's saying that she got into some sort of argument with her boyfriend or husband. She says her man. Again, this was according to Fox News Digital.
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're crying. Do you need police, paramedics, or anything?
No, I'm okay. I promise. I'm just emotional.
Now, we have this audio as well, and it's reportedly this call made on April 15th at 2:45 in the morning. April 15th was a Tuesday, and the call is from this woman. She's emotional about having a dispute. Now, the woman you hear on the phone, she says that she and her man got into it, but she also says that she's okay, so police end up canceling the call to send an officer to the house. The dispatch says that that caller never gave her name either, so there's not really any information about who she is or where she went. But again, the chief said that the voice that you hear is not that of Monique Tepe. In fact, the call also may not have even been made from the Tepe's home, because the chief said in more densely populated areas with multiple cell phone towers, like the neighborhood that the Tepes live in, a call from a cell phone can actually be from within a 30-meter radius. So that call could have been made from somewhere around the Tepe's home, but not in the Tepe's home.
So it could have been a neighbor, or it could have been somebody even walking by on a cell phone that maybe was just upset. Although it would be unclear as to why somebody would call 911 and hang up when they're out for a walk. But, maybe they did.
Now, the chief also told the Columbus Dispatch that there is no history of calls from the Tepe's address or related to the Tepe's. Now, the chief continues to urge patience in this investigation. She says that the department is being as transparent as they possibly can while they're continuing to maintain the integrity of the investigation. Joining us now is retired detective commander with the Chicago Police Department, Will Svilar. Always great to have you on Law and Crime, and you've been great in helping us understand this story as it's continued to unfold. Before we dive into what the chief had to say in these kind of one-on-one interviews it appears she gave to some of the local media outlets there, what is it like right now in the Detective Bureau in Columbus as the days go on?
They're running out all these leads. They're, based on what I saw in that interview with the chief, they've got some leads. They're going in a specific direction on this. But as a detective, all you want to do is work on your case. You don't want all the distractions from the outside, and that's where your layer of supervision comes in. My job as a supervisor was to give my detectives all the tools they needed so they could do their job, and I'll handle all the other stuff. So they're doing their job, and I think the chief did a good thing by going, and the deputy chief did a good thing by going on TV.
Yeah, because I think you look at, there's just been some silence, and you want police spending more time investigating a crime and hopefully solving a crime than needing to answer questions from the media. But there's just been so much speculation, especially in the online space, with what potentially happened.
It also clears up as to why the police didn't hear the kids when you can hear them in the background of that 911 call when more people were showing up, because they went to the wrong house.
There were two pieces of information, at least two to me, that stood out that she confirmed through some of the local media stations. It was Channel 10 that said that the Tepes were both found upstairs in a bedroom, so second floor, and that the 911 caller, when you listen to that call and the person who calls back and says there is a body here, that is someone who is actually inside the house. It was unclear before whether maybe they saw through a window or something like that, but they were actually able to go into the home. What does that tell you?
So obviously they know this person. Whoever went into their home knows this person well enough to either know where a key is or know the code to get into the house. So this is a pretty close friend. Now, I was a little confused when I listened to the 911 calls as well, because it sounded like one of the callers said, I hear babies crying, but I can't get in. Now, my question is that the same caller who says they're on the second floor invisible? Because that's kind of contradictory of what happened. If you're in there, you're in there. Are you taking the kids out, removing them from that? I mean, those things are a little up in the air for me, and I wasn't clear on it when I listened to the 911 calls.
Yeah, it was definitely part because I remember the first time I listened to the 911 call, just even, it kind of goes into the part we'll talk about with the initial officer went to the wrong home apparently. But because you could hear the kids in the background of the call, and I wasn't sure if it was like they were on the door and then this 911 caller's on the outside. So there's still some questions as far as kind of just the layout, and we'll get the context eventually on all of this. Knowing that the Tepes were in their bedroom, because before when it was like no forced entry, it was like, did someone come to the house? They had some sort of conversation, and maybe they did. But now we're thinking, according to police, 2 and 5 in the morning in a bedroom upstairs. So potentially sleeping
in 2 different bedrooms. They were found. So I don't know if one of them tried to run or if
when this happened. The fact that she's upstairs as well, it seems they're both shot in the bedroom. But then there's that no forced entry part of it. I guess as you're piecing together the steps of what potentially happened, like how do those pieces of information kind of factor into what you're thinking?
I mean, the no forced entry is a huge part of it. The condition of the home is a huge part of it. The location of the bodies are all huge parts of it. And it would suggest the person had knowledge of, 1, how to get into the house. 2, what bedroom that the Tepes were in, possibly. So it kind of suggests that maybe this is somebody that knows the layout of the house at least, or certainly the code to get in, or they had some kind of relationship with the Tepes. That's what I think.
Now, just like in the Brian Kohlberger case of the King Road house, this house was also online, which is how I was able to get all of the interior photographs that I showed you guys from before Spencer and Monique moved into the house, but I was able to access those online. So those were up just like they were in the 1122 King Road house as well.
And, we have the biggest piece of information that we have at this point is that person of interest video, that person walking down the alleyway. They're not looking at the camera, maybe hiding their face from the camera. But police were pretty clear in the interview that the chief gave to the local media that they have tips. Like they have tips that have come in. Detectives are going through the video right now, trying to figure things out. And then part of me is like, and we don't know if they have more videos of this person of interest, but my question would be like, why not put out more of them if they actually do, if they have as much video as they say that they have? And maybe they don't have, I will say, like, maybe they just don't have any more video of the guy, but if they do, why would you withhold that information?
Good question. If they're withholding that information, there's a reason for it. It's not that they're trying to keep the public in the dark, but maybe they're trying to not tip who they're looking at.
I agree. I think that the reason they're not sounding the alarm for the public to be wary is because I believe they know they probably have identified a suspect and now they have to prove it. Knowing who you think you did it and being able to prove that to a jury are not the same thing. And we saw that in the Barry Morphew case where they went too quick and tried to indict him too quickly without enough evidence. And then they ended up having to drop the charges until they could get more evidence and refile against Barry Morphew, who's going to stand trial now for doing away with his wife, Suzanne.
So again, to have just one piece of information like that, just one piece of someone walking down the alley behind the residence, it seems like there'd be more. There's cameras everywhere. There's, in the service that I have with my Ring doorbell thing, there's a neighborhood app where if somebody walks down the street sideways, somebody is getting on, making a comment saying, hey, there's somebody walking down the street. You know what I mean? So there's got to be more. There's got to be a reason why they're holding up that information. And she kind of alluded to that. She said, there are things we can't tell you. And that would be because it would compromise the investigation.
And I do think that is really, really important. So I do want to show you the house. Let's look at that together. Let's go back and let's look at the interior and exterior photos of the house. That's the memorial. Let me back that up a little bit. You can see that's the obituary of Spencer and Monique Tepe. That's his birthday, where we just saw the picture of him holding the balloons. And this is big brother, big sister, I believe, where he volunteered. This is her first husband, Dr. That's Monique in the wedding dress. Another picture of Monique. We're going to come to pictures of the house now. We're going to look at those together. There's another picture of Spencer, just a beautiful young couple living their best lives with their, with a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And everybody that knew them says that they were loved. And this is just such a tragedy. But this is the obituary here that they were put out joint for Spencer and Monique. So this tells me that the family members are probably close enough that they feel comfortable to do this together. But let's look at the house together, shall we? I just think this is such a sweet picture. They just both look so happy and in love. This was on their wedding day. They had their wedding at their house. And this is Spencer. I think this is outside of his dental office. And that's Monique in the sailor hat and Spencer holding the pineapple. I don't know what that was. And then this is the person of interest, they're calling them. And then this is the house. This is the police tape crime scene outside the house, but we're going to look at the house inside together. And you can see how tall the stairs are to get up onto the first floor, let alone to be able to climb up. Look how high that is. So you can see there's steps going up. There's a Juliet balcony on the first floor. There's no way somebody was looking in the second floor window. So whoever made that 911 call saying they saw Spencer on the floor had gotten into the house. So let's look at the doors. And this is the back. Again, there's no way that somebody could boost themselves up to look in the second floor window. So whoever made that 911 call had the key code or had the key to get into the house. So I don't know if coworkers found a neighbor that had the key or if who had the key to the house. Okay, so this is the front door. And you can see the banister outside through the glass. You can see how high up it is. And then you can clearly see that there's a deadbolt on it and also a key code. So they didn't have to have the key. If they knew the code. So when the Spencer and Monique moved into this house, did they change the code on the lock? And did different people entering the house have different codes? So this is why I think this was probably somebody that knew them, because there was no sign of a break-in into this house. Let's look at more interior pictures of the house. I think I just backed it up by mistake. There we go. Okay, so this is also an interior picture, and this is the photograph that looks out to the Juliet balcony. It looks out to the front of the house. You can see this is the first floor. You can see how high up it is. So the basement did come up above the ground a little bit. And then you can clearly see that, the French door is leading out, but there's no keypad on this door, which makes sense because this door didn't lead out. It didn't have any stairs. It just led out to a Juliet balcony. This door, the front door, that's the one that's right next door to it that I showed you from the front of the house. Let's continue to look at the inside. So this is, you can see the front door is next to the refrigerator and the cabinets there in the back. You can see the transom window. And that's the staircase that goes to the second floor and the staircase that goes down to the basement. That's the French doors that lead out to the front of the house to the Juliet balcony, but not the front door. This is the kitchen. This is before they moved in. And you can see it's a really pretty house. So there are windows on the ground floor, but law enforcement has said there was no break-in. And then this is the view. I wanted to show you one of the upstairs bedrooms just to show that whoever made that 911 call had to have let themselves in. Look how high off the ground the second floor is. There's no way that somebody just peeked in the window and saw Spencer on the floor. And he didn't mention Monique, which is why we believe that Monique was in a different room. So I just thought it would be worth going through that together. Their home is beautiful. Glass doors in a house are risky. Yeah. I do too, Lucky. I hope so too. And nothing was taken. Not that we know of. Not that we know of. Linda said maybe they leaned over from the stairs onto the Juliet balcony. Well, the Juliet balcony was on the first floor, but Spencer was found on the second floor. That's why they could have leaned over, but that wouldn't have showed them where Spencer was. Spencer was on the second floor. I worry about that too, and Jazz. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you'd like me to continue to cover this case, please let me know by subscribing, leaving me a comment that you would like me to continue covering this. Let me know about this, and I will gladly continue to follow it. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below.